Hello humans, my name is Olivius, I go by Olivi Arts, and it's a pleasure to meet you. For those of you who are new here, which is all of you, as this is my first video, welcome! This is actually a weird first video for me, as I fully intended to mostly discuss art and the like on my channel. But before I could do that, I got sucked down a 6-week-long rabbit hole, like you do. So here we are. I'm going to guess a lot of you have already heard of Bloodmoney, but if not, here's a quick rundown. Bloodmoney is a simple, cutesy little clicker game. You need $25,000 for your operation, and you stop at the booth of this little pink-haired, foppish British gentleman who offers you $1 per click. Meet Harvey Harvington. So far so good. Well, there's a little shop up in the corner, and you can afford items in it as you get more money. And those items in turn give you more money per click. Sounds like a sweet deal, doesn't it? Only catch is the items are increasingly violent. In a normal playthrough, which I'm not showing here, you get a feather, then a needle, then a hammer to Harvey's increasing concern, but it's actually after the hammer that really bad things start. You see that cute little eye of his? Yeah. After a normal playthrough of this game, he will never see a pair of scissors the same again. Literally. Anyway, by the end of the game, you're repeatedly stabbing him. Don't ask me how he survives as long as he does. This game basically turns into a torture simulator for fictional money, while this man spits the best roast I've ever heard out of someone being repeatedly stabbed. You can either just stab him until you have what you need, or shoot and kill him, because why not? Why not commit cold-blooded murder? Keep in mind, you're not forced to buy any of these items. No one is making you, the player, do this. It's fully possible to win the game without the violent tools. And that's what we're doing today. Heads up, it takes a while, so buckle up. While the correlation isn't precise, Bloodmoney reminds me quite a bit of the Milgram experiment. This experiment, done in the 1960s, was designed to see how far people would go in harming their fellow human beings at the direction of an authority figure. The results of this experiment were published in 1963. In this experiment, 40 people were assigned to be teachers under the premises that a new method was being tried, enhancing learning and memory with punishment-driven techniques, namely administration of increasingly intense electric shocks. The experimenter acted as the authority figure, maintaining the experiment had to continue regardless of consequence. The teachers, really the ones being experimented on, would flip a switch they believed administered an electric shock each time the student got an answer wrong. The electric shocks were not real, but the responses of the student were played by an actor with pre-recorded responses. That got more intense as time passed, much like Bloodmoney, until they faded to silence. Furthermore, these shock switches were labeled, starting at 15 and ranging up to 450 volts, with helpful descriptors to mark roughly how intense and dangerous the shocks were. The people administering the shocks believed that they were, in fact, causing harm to real people. Many of them showed signs of high stress, though a few remained calm regardless. The screaming and pleading at the intense shock levels did not dissuade anybody. At the 300-volt mark, the student would go silent and stop providing answers. 5 of the 40 people refused to go beyond that point, with 4 more stopping at the next shock. Several others dropped off between that point and the maximum level, but of the original 40, a full 26 people followed through all the way to the maximum shock level. 26 people translates to roughly 65% of the participants, nearly 2/3. Rephrased, that means 2/3 of people would cause extreme pain to their fellow human beings simply because an authority figure told them to. Of course, a key difference in this is that there is no authority figure telling you what to do in Bloodmoney. You make the choices of right and wrong yourself without anyone telling you what to do. Still, the themes behind it are very similar. When put in a situation where it's expected and advantageous to hurt others, many people will choose the option to harm their fellow human beings, no matter how ghastly the actions are. Bloodmoney definitely reflects some elements of the Milgram experiment, as you do listen to a person in front of you spiral further and further from the pain you're inflicting on them. And both are probably played by some pretty amazing voice actors. Seriously, Harvey's voice actor does so well that there were jokes made about the soul of a British gentleman being trapped in the game. If you want to listen to a playthrough of the bad ending, their OG voice actor, Dexter Manning, played through the game and voiced the lines live. Warning, if you choose to do this, viewer discretion advised. There is graphic violence and swear words aplenty. I mean, not that I approve of swearing, but getting repeatedly stabbed is a situation that I'm sympathetic to, so Harvey gets a kind of a pass here. This game is difficult even to watch, honestly. You suffer no consequences for your choices, which Harvey recognizes near the end. Harvey realizes he can beg, threaten, scream. Nothing he does can stop you, or mean anything to you, the player. Might makes him right in this game world, so he suffers for your benefit, for your amusement. All of these are choices made by your own hands, and if the existential horror of this game hasn't set in yet, I'm not sure when it would. It takes all the heartstrings of human empathy and guilt and yanks them with devastating force. Especially for a game where all you have to do is click, and you win. Who would expect to be traumatized from something so simple, right? You may think this is all very interesting, but why are we talking about this again? Well, the short answer is, it just won't get out of my head. Seriously, Harvey now resides in there, rent-free. I've tried everything to explain the phenomenon that is Harvey Harvington, to no avail. There's just one explanation I have, a verbatim quote I've heard from at least 2 separate people. He's just a little guy. No, seriously, I'm for real here. They're not wrong either. This little pink-haired sop who gets beaten within an inch of his life and who has an entire wife and son, should I add. He's been married for 10 years. He's single-handedly created an entire fandom full of fan artists, animators, modders, and fanfiction writers in the span of less than 2 months. I, may be counted in that number. Look, he just deserves better, okay? My hand was forced, my brain came up with ideas, and, yeah, I'll put the AO3 links in the description if you want them. At first, I did not know that this phenomenon was repeatable. I thought it was just me, and that I was the weird one for having an incurable case of Harvey Harvington in my head. I tried to get him out. But then, something happened. I convinced a friend of mine to watch a playthrough of Bloodmoney, and now she's also caught up in this madness almost as deeply as I am. Anyway, I'm making this entire video, and he's still in here. He's requested a room to himself. He'd prefer me to decorate it with pink. Fortunately, that's easy enough for me. I do like pink. I think he signed a 5-year lease. I'm not sure what the terms of the contract were. Send help. Well, when I say Harvey Harvington won't get out of my head, that's only half the reason why I'm talking about this game. I think it's also quite fascinating on a psychological and philosophical level. There's definitely some very clear themes to this game that I believe inspired the developer Shroomy. The most obvious idea is that it's a message against greed. Chances are, like myself, Shroomy lives in a Western society, and we've all seen how fast this world is falling apart due to greed. Many corporations choose to cheapen their products and underpay their employees in order to boost their profits and satisfy their investors, to make even more money, to repeat the cycle all over again and line the pockets of the already wealthy. Whee! While capitalism as a system has brought a fair amount of prosperity, as the interests of corporations and real live human beings have drifted further and further apart, the system definitely has its cracks. This isn't meant to be a treatise on economics. I believe the modern world definitely has its flaws. I don't know what would work as a better alternative. The fundamental underlying problem isn't just the structure of things, that's just a symptom of the real cause. The real cause is natural human greed. Don't get me wrong, greed is beneficial on the scale of self-interest. We sort of need it to survive at some points, you know? Yet self-interest on its own doesn't encompass compassion for others. Far too often, this translates to those who are able to, taking advantage of those who aren't in a position to fight back. Harvey is a character of such a person. He didn't deserve his fate, the fate that you, the player, inflict on him. For your own convenience. All for simple greed. Another really interesting note is that Bloodmoney is a video game. And the floor is made of floor. I know. I'm getting somewhere with this. If you have ever observed them in their natural habitat, some gamers are notoriously terrible people who will do literally almost anything for cooler power-ups, completionism, hidden secrets, etc., etc., etc. Modern games also largely encourage this morally bankrupt behavior. There are either better rewards to the worst choice, or there's a horrible twist that invalidates the good choice, or there are no good sides entirely, blah blah blah. Because why be a hero when you could be a tyrant, wielding your power to poorly arbitrate situations that are almost as awful as you yourself are, killing and slaying any who get in your way in your quest for, what was it again? I forgot. Well, the plot's not important here. But it's okay because you're the strong and cool and epic edgy hero, the edgiest edgelord to have ever edged. I think we've edged too close to the sun. I don't enjoy games like that. Heck, there were enough traces of the bad choices being rewarded in even relatively mainstream games like Skyrim. The bad guys like the Dark Brotherhood got the interesting plots, while the good guys like the College of Winterhold got the most basic, predictable, ridiculous endings ever. Being a worse person oftentimes gets you better rewards in many modern games. Everything was so edgy and dark and just not fun that I don't think Skyrim is as good story-wise as its predecessors. Though creations by Bethesda in general aren't exactly shining examples of heroism, Morrowind and Oblivion were at least a little better. Considering how beloved Elder Scrolls games, and Skyrim particularly, are, I know what I've said is very controversial. And fight me if you want, the comment section is right there. But seriously, this is a recurring issue. I've personally played part of the Divinity series. I briefly played Pillars of Eternity, and all of those had dark and morally gray choices to them that just made the games less interesting and less fun for me. I'm pretty sure that some of the big titles like The Witcher and Assassin's Creed series also do this, though I haven't played those personally. And look, you can have a slightly edgy and totally cool game and still allow freedom of choice and morality. Two game series that do this well are Dishonored and Infamous. Those are two dark but fun games, where the gameplay and my enjoyment of said game was not at all impaired. Well, in the case of the Infamous series, I just watched my dad play it, but the point remains. I've considered doing evil playthroughs of some games like Skyrim before to experience the other quests, but there just isn't any fun to it for me. Maybe it's a basic trope, that maybe I just like being the hero. Anyway, so we've established that many modern games reward questionable behavior with cool powers and quests. Ironically, the same is true of Bloodmoney. The normal and bad endings are both quicker and more interesting than the good ending. I admit that even my patience was a little tested by hearing the same 4 or 5 voice lines loop over and over again every 50 clicks. Harvey has the patience of a saint, because I swear that if someone had clicked me 12,600 times in a row, I would not still be smiling and telling them like, every click is a step closer to greatness, or haha, stop it, just kidding, keep going. I mean, it's better than getting stabbed though, don't get me wrong, so, valid choice, Harvey. I guess the game structure could be argued as further evidence that, much like real life, the system of blood money is rigged. Then there's just the question of figuring out who rigged it. Oh, you know something else ironic? Some people on YouTube just straight up prove that blood money has a point. Remember that friend I introduced to this madness? I may have made a grievous mistake in the process. I told her about the game, but I did not recommend a specific video to her. So she just pulled up a popular result. And, well, long story short, she was traumatized. Extra traumatized, that is. Because not only was she watching the horrifying footage, which is enough for any person's sanity to cope with at any given point, the YouTuber playing the game was less than sympathetic to poor Harvey Harvington. More like nonchalant, sociopathic, and borderline sadistic towards the poor lad than anything. I mean, really, it's pretty ironic that the thesis of Blood Money is a perspective on the depths of human greed and the great evil that results from a lack of empathy, so these players act exactly like the stereotypical callous gamer. Good job, guys. You proved the game correct. Do you feel good about yourself now? Does this knowledge warm your cold, black heart? Anyway, that's why I have slight beef with a random person I've never met. I have no enemies. Almost no enemies. But even if I did, a certain belief system says to love your enemies, and I happen to subscribe to it. And speaking of, I think it has some rather interesting things to say on the subject. Hear me out here. If Blood Money's thesis is the greedy heart of humanity, then this is my response, the only solution. As I mentioned before, humanity is fundamentally self-interested. Sometimes for better, sometimes for worse. Greed, so necessary for survival, is an ugly beast at its core. If the governor of this universe is indeed cold, unfeeling survival, then greed is sadly the answer. Torturing and killing an innocent man for my profit would be the answer. Kindness and charity are folly. Or, you could say that in the absence of a greater truth, everyone gets to make up their own individual truths. Well, perhaps for your standard Blood Money player, shooting Harvey for no reason is their truth. These are the limits of human moral philosophy, the truths that rational and intelligent people have to stare in the face. Do you have the courage to stare such cruelty in the face and say, this is right, this is the answer? Frankly, I don't. But what if there was a better way? What if there was a God looking down on this world? A God who demanded standards of behavior, who enforced some kind of justice? Perhaps the story doesn't end with greed and cruelty. Perhaps there's something more to this life. If cruelty is the answer, life is pointless misery. But if there's a God, a hereafter, a sense of justice and accountability and reckoning that persists beyond this world, suddenly how we live matters. Everything dies someday. This is fact. We do not get the privilege of creating something permanent in the physical world. Yet if I am right, then there is one immortality we can touch, the human soul. Suddenly, everything has meaning, both how we care for our own and how we influence the souls of others. With that, kindness has a point once more. For our thoughts, our actions, whether we show greed or kindness, if there is a God, then it matters. I believe there is a God, and I wish to serve him. While it's doubtful any of us will ever see a situation similar to Bloodmoney, how many opportunities do we have for cruelty versus kindness in our everyday lives? With our family and friends, co-workers, business partners, random customer service workers, strangers on the street. Will we take advantage of and crush everyone in our path just for a little more cash? Or will we choose something better? That choice is up to you, and to me. I know a video game has no real bearing on reality. There's a little madness to what I'm doing, I fully admit. There is no real morality as to whether or not you click one option or the other on some pixels. But the idea underlying it is worth discussing. Bloodmoney highlights how ugly human greed is, and this is its thesis. My response to this thesis is that a better way is possible, and with my life's actions, I will prove it, starting with a simple, easy choice to spare Harvey. I realize this is a very small hill to die on. Compared with life's many hardships, clicking for an hour means almost nothing. But it is the hill that I believe means much more. I doubt the developer of this game and I would agree very much in our worldviews. Shroomy does use a little anti-Christian imagery in his logo. But I think I understand the frustration at this world's lack of justice and care that underlies Bloodmoney. I felt it myself. Just the other day, I went on a casual dozen-message rant against corporate culture. I get it. I unfortunately had to take some business classes in college, and hated the attitude that underlies them. Why else do you think I'm on YouTube instead of chasing the grind set? If I wanted to be rich, I wouldn't be here. Trust me when I say I understand. In a way, this game is right. I agree perfectly with its underlying premise. Human greed is a hideous thing. Humans in general are pretty ugly at their cores. This goes for me too. When I talk about these grand ideals and lofty choices, I only have the strength and will to do so because God has done years of work to purify me. And honestly, after all this time, I don't think I ever want to go back. Playing the villain isn't any fun. Video games are wish fulfillment? Well, my wish is to be the hero. Every time I can shape the world into something just a little better, I fulfill what I truly want. It's satisfying. It is a tiny piece of greatness. And yeah, doing the right thing is still hard. Mortal flesh still interferes. I still feel a rush of social anxiety asking people if I can praise them. I definitely feel a rush of anxiety making this video, as I know that many people are going to disagree with me and probably hate me for this. I fully admit taking the time to go out of your way and care about others when there's no gain for yourself can be tiring and exhausting. And honestly, if there wasn't any motivating reason for me to do so, I wouldn't. Perhaps I'm a fool. Perhaps in all this I'm wrong and I've wasted my life. But I'm convinced enough of what I'm doing, convinced enough of what I believe is true to bet my life on it. And my risked life, as I'm evidently speedrunning carpal tunnel syndrome to prove my point. Dang it, Harvey. Why do you do this to me? Oh, honorary mention for something I had to go through. My recording software crashed in the middle of my first recording. So I had to do the entire thing again. You're actually seeing 2 playthroughs of Bloodmoney stitched together, folks. Said help. Okay, now that I've exhausted my brain cells, let's keep going, because I'm nowhere near done clicking yet. If you think this is bad just watching this in the background, imagine doing it twice. Oh, I've got some more news for you, folks. For those of you that aren't already aware, there's already a sequel to this game out. Bloodmoney 2, called Human Expenditure Program, follows up with the themes of the original and adds a lot more lore and angst and betrayal. This video isn't specifically about the sequel, but this section will have major spoilers, so skip to the next section if you don't want to hear them. You still here? Alright, let's get into it. The sequel is basically one of those cute little carefree avatar games, like a Tamagotchi. Gone horribly wrong, of course, as the days go by. Because in what world does Harvey get a good ending? We can't have that now, can we? We get to see Harvey's wife Yoonmi, and she's a horrible person. She's uploaded Harvey's consciousness into a simulation, and he was cool with it at first, probably because he didn't know that he was about to be put in a torture simulator called Bloodmoney for fun and profit. Mostly the profit part. Yoonmi counts on nightly resets to make sure that Harvey's prepared for the next day and has nicely forgotten his repeated suffering and dying. But he starts complaining of bad dreams pretty quickly, and things only spiral to worse as he starts to suffer the same damage as he does in the original Bloodmoney game. claiming these are all just glitches in the system. Yumi refuses to let Harvey out and tries her absolute best in gaslighting him into thinking that the dreams he's having don't mean anything. The missing eye and stuff are all just glitches in the system. But in a week's time, he pieces together the truth, which is really rough for Harvey. You thought he had it bad in the first game. Don't get me wrong, he does. Imagine that happening on a daily basis, and you discover your beloved spouse of 10 years is doing this to you on purpose, and not letting you out as you start to go absolutely spastic either. So, Harvey engages in some self-deletion. No, that's not internet censorship. He literally pulls up command prompt and deletes the system files. And that's where the game ends! We don't even get a good ending option this time. Come on, man. I would have played another 12,000 times for Harvey. Why'd you do this to us, Shroomy? Please? I don't know what the plan is, but there's no way it can end here, right? Maybe there's a Bloodmoney 3 already in the works. I honestly don't know. I would love to say that it's just narratively unsatisfying, and from an author's perspective, there needs to be more follow-through. But that could also be me as a viewer saying, wait, really? It just ends here? Wait, really? And based on how huge this game has gotten overnight, I think there's going to be another one. There's gotta be, right? But even if there is no Bloodmoney 3, there will at least be fanfiction. I'd love to be able to animate my fanfictions. Unfortunately, I can't animate, and neither can I do justice to Harvey's voice, as I am not a gentleman, nor am I British. I tried in the car on the way home today. It went absolutely terribly. I have never hated my own voice so much in my life, and I don't know how I'll be able to stand editing this video, because I still don't like my voice. Anyway, I also do have a little beef with this game. Okay, you want to have a horrible ending with no chance of redemption? Fine. You don't even have to give us the option? Sure, your choice. But I was not ready to be lied to. There is a minigame you could unlock at a certain day. It's called Save Harvey, which you want to do because he's suffering. Again, as usual, as we've established. Except the game is never ending. You can't save him. The title is a lie. I am beyond betrayed. My disappointment is immeasurable. My day is ruined. How dare you? Why can this little pink-haired muppet of a man not get a good ending for once in his life? What has he done to deserve this? Why? Okay, enough about Bloodmoney. Harvey's had enough for one day. So have I. If you end up falling deep into the Bloodmoney rabbit hole like I did, I'll link a few of my favorite animations in the description, just because I like them and want to share them with you guys. The playthroughs I recommend are also in there. Also, another treat for you guys is the song for Bloodmoney, made by the original creator. At this point, I could probably sing it line for line. Language warning though. Oh, you can mute specifically between 1 minute 23 seconds and 1 minute 25 seconds if you want to skip the curse word though. I know way too much about this. Oh, and there's also a version of Bloodmoney on Roblox called Blood Cash, where you instead bonk a guy called Billy. Considering it mirrors the events of the original fairly closely, I don't recommend letting your child play it. It's not age restricted though. I don't really recommend letting your child in Roblox in general these days. But if curiosity has overtaken you, once again, the original voice actor for Bloodmoney played this game. On a side note, I really love it when creators involved in a project interact with their community. It's lots of fun. Also, thanks to watching all these videos, my brain has successfully created its own replica of Dexter's voice that can narrate anything on command. This has been very fun while writing fanfiction and realizing there's no way to adequately describe the audio in my head, and it's definitely is not helping with the ongoing and unsuccessful Harvey brain eviction attempts. Guys, considering my brain is better for him than the simulation he's been stuck in anyway, I might just let Harvey stay. I'm pretty sure he's tried to possess other objects in my surroundings, like the fax machine at work, my staticky headphones, the flickering light bulb in my room overhead. Oh yeah, and if you're tired of all the violence and human cruelty and all that other stuff, just recently released, here guys, is a mod called Soft Money. Though I found a couple lines of dialogue to be slightly concerning, this mod is the first and only thing to finally give Harvey the justice and the happy ending he deserves. There's also another mod, it's called Love Money. It starts off as cute and wholesome as Soft Money, but then dissolves into something, utterly unwatchable. So, anyway, Soft Money, go check it out. I'll link a showcase to it in the description. Hello, Future Olivia's here, back with another fun fact. This conclusion is a bit reworked from the original. Every time I think I have all the information I need to finish this project, something else comes out. Not 2 hours after I finished the original conclusion, expressing my enthusiasm for the prospect of more content, I ended up looking up more on Shroomy. First of all, he says there will be no Bloodmoney 3. And you know what? While I did whine and carry on a little bit about it, hey, that's his choice. No hard feelings. I'll just stick with my own little fanfictions, and don't worry, I know those aren't canon, it's just a little thing I do for fun. Little tributes paid by my brain to Harvey Harrington, the legend. And another thing, I knew that Shroomy and I were bound to disagree on a lot, but he's quite serious about the counter-Christian themes, more so than I initially realized. He calls himself the Vocaloid Antichrist. His motto is worship. Pretty sure we're not talking about worshipping the same god I do. So people like me are probably the last kind of person he'd expect to encounter, since ideologically we'd be pretty opposite. Pretty funny, actually, that we've ended up here. Still, though, we're both people after all. We have ideas in our heads and minds to express them with, and we want to share them with the world. As a fellow creator, I'm glad he shared his ideas and that I had the privilege of discussing them. They're worth discussing. Even if I was wrong about his motivations behind this, and, well, if nothing else, these underlying themes likely helped to explain why the game was so effective. Regardless, this changes nothing about my personal thoughts on the game, so I've decided to leave them as they are. Much like a video game, life is a series of choices. You can pick out any side quest you choose within certain constraints, and there's tons of factions you can join, though really there's only two. One gives death and cruelty and suffering to yourself and others. One gives life. Choose carefully which side gets your soul. I don't expect one video to change anyone's mind, but, well, if you join one side, it's never too late to reconsider. As my playthrough of Bloodmoney comes to a close, honestly, I felt nothing but happiness at conquering this challenge. I won! I finished this game with my morals intact, and I don't regret a thing about it. This entire project has in fact been worth it to me. Anyone that made it this far, thank you so much for listening through to the end of this. I've had a lot of fun here. Good to see you all. I am sadly a working adult and a very distractible creature in general. I don't know when I'll be back, but please leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more like this. And please share your thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear what you have to say about this. Anyway, take care of yourselves, and until next time.